Today I want to make semolina bread, and what this is going to do is comprise white flour with semolina flour, which is the hard wheat that most pastas are made from. And it's going to be, when you talk about semolina and or what's called durum flour, durum is going to be more of the fine grind of this hard wheat, and the more granular type of grinding is going to be the semolina. Oftentimes people go back and forth. One says durum is this and one says semolina is that. Doesn't matter. This is going to be the more coarse ground of the durum wheat, okay? And so what we're going to have is 50% semolina flour, so it's going to be a considerable amount. Another 50% of the white flour. This time we're going to add butter, okay? It's going to help to kind of smooth this out a little bit, give a better mouthfeel, and it has a great texture to it, all right? It's also going to have our white liquid levain that we've been using in the past, and I'm just going to put a small pinch of commercial yeast. It only has 2 grams. The reason I do that for this particular bread is that if I were to completely leaven it with just the liquid levain itself, it tends to get leaning more towards a sour flavor that I think tends to pull away from the flavor that's already in, just in the fermentation itself. This isn't a bread that I like to ferment overnight either, because again, you want this to be more about the flour and then the richness of the butter. This is also going to be, at some point, I'm going to put some sesame seeds on top and do a couple of fun shapes as well. So, all right, we're going to get started. I just have to scale off the liquid levain, okay, which is going to be about approximately 30%. So I need 347 grams of liquid levain. Fed this last night, and it's looking excellent. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to put, what do I need? 647 grams of water. Okay. So I'm going to put that in here as well. All right. Okay, now when we mix this, again, as we've done in the past, this is going to be at a slow mix for about 6-7 minutes. This time around, though, I'm going to incorporate the butter towards the end of that mix, and then I'll probably go into high speed a little bit. I don't tend to like, with a KitchenAid mixer, rather than like what a bakery would use, a spiral mixer, is that these types of mixers tend to create a lot of friction, a lot of unnecessary heat, and then a little bit of damage to the dough itself. So generally I'll keep it with a low speed, then we're going to incorporate the butter, and then just for a minute or two mix that in high speed. All right, this isn't like a fully enriched bread. It only has 6% butter. You can actually put it in at the very beginning if you truly wish, but I tend to like to get the dough development, a little bit of the gluten development first, then add the butter. If it were a higher percentage of butter, then we'd start to think about doing the slow incorporation. But we'll get to that in other breads. Okay. So with the dry, okay, we've got our salt as well. Okay, make sure everything's locked in. Start to begin this with, again, slow speed, 6-7 minutes, then incorporate the butter, okay? And then we'll go into about a 2-minute in fast speed. Okay, so this has been about 6 minutes in first speed, low speed. On a KitchenAid, it's actually about 2, where this speed is. Now, as I mentioned on this, you're going to see here, I mean, obviously we're not developed in any respect, okay? But it's fully incorporated. And I'm letting it have a chance to now, with the addition of the butter, go into a second speed to develop a little bit. But as again, it's this type of mixer where the development is just pushing it against the sidewall of the mixer from the little mixing dough hook. It doesn't really develop as well as maybe it should without creating too much friction. So when I do this, I'm really just going to have it in higher speed, which is going to be around a 5 or a 6 on a KitchenAid, and just do this just to incorporate the butter. Okay, there's still going to be folds. There's still going to be, you know, additional fermentation development, right? So I'm going to get this going. Started off in the lower speed, just on the incorporation of the butter, and then, like I said, we'll start to pick it up into a higher speed. It's not a whole lot, 6%. Okay, so this will take only about a minute to incorporate. Then we'll go into a little bit better development in a higher speed. And if you can smell the butter, it's such a beautiful richness that comes through with this. And since the harshness or the mouthfeel of just a semolina flour is going to be on your mouth, it's going to be just too rough. So that little bit of butter helps to smooth that out. Okay, if you put in too much, it takes away from the flavor. You put in too little, it really does nothing. So that 5, 6, maybe 7% is kind of in the range that is a contributor rather than a detractor. All right, so all the little butter chunks are within the dough system. Now we're just going to go up. Now it's, you know, slapping up against the sidewall, but again, I limit that as much as I can so that I don't damage the dough as well as create too much heat. Okay, so now we have a very nice, very soft dough that is mixed a total of about 8 minutes, all right? And again, I have to be thoughtful about dough temperature. That's why, again, the friction, the raising of the heat level of the dough, you're going to have to use cooler water. I had about 68-degree water. If you're going to mix it longer, make sure that you lower your dough or water temperature to try to compensate. And again, we're looking anywhere from 75 to 77, 78 degrees. All right, I'm actually around 78.5, so again, like I said, that friction really does come into play, and it's not something that you want too much of. All right, so I'm going to give a minor fold prior to bulk fermentation, which is going to be approximately 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, and I generally give a fold in halfway through. Okay. You'll see this very nice dough. This is a little bit firmer because, again, the semolina flour can really, really absorb a lot of water. Okay, but it is actually as well quite soft and supple. So, all right, let that ferment between 2.5 hours. I'll check it as we go. Again, get a feel of what your dough is going to do. Don't go entirely by the clock. You create the formulas to make it within a system, you know, within that time frame. But again, it's going to react as how well your starter is and dough temperatures and such. Okay, so we'll check back in about an hour. Thanks. Okay, so it's been about an hour, 15 minutes. And just by checking the dough, and actually you can kind of feel it, if you decide that your dough is actually a little bit too tight, you'll know whether or not you need to put a fold in there. If it's, you know, still loose and it's going to have time to continue to ferment, you may want to add a fold. Okay, so I do, feeling this, and I can feel it just that kind of that lightness that I was talking about. It's very nice, and you can see it has that kind of extensibility, all right? But just to have it, and you can see it's a very, very smooth, very, very nice dough. And I think everyone that makes this is going to appreciate the fact that you can make it. You can find the semolina flour generally in the, kind of the specialty part of the flour sections. Almost all the grocery stores have them now. But it's going to be more likely to be from like Bob's Red Mill or Arrowhead, or if you have some other brands that are in your area. But you'll see just this very, very, really nice smooth dough that has a great mouthfeel, unbelievable flavor. That touch of levain with the butter, perfect, right? So, hour and 15 minutes approximately, the way that I can sense this. Start dividing and shaping, all right? Thank you. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 hours, and it's time to divide. Dough has been very nice, and as you see, as you're making it, it's got this wonderful smell, and it's got a softness, kind of a suppleness that's a little bit different than some of the other breads that you may make. So we're going to divide this. I'm going to make it in a handful of different things today. And now I want to make some little rolls too. So we're going to have 3 at 600 grams, 3 items, 600 grams, and then I'm going to do 50-gram rolls. They could be like kind of a hamburger bun or just a roll. But either way, they're all quite good. Okay, so 600 grams, again, cut kind of a strip, and you'll get a good idea as to what your size will need. The less pieces that you get per piece, the better, all right? Because what you really, really want to do is try to get it in one shot. Okay, so with the division, what we're going to do is just do a pre-shape, as we've always done in the past. And it's just a very light rounding so that the pieces can have a chance to kind of come together, create one solid piece. Plus it also gets you in a better chance to a shape a more proper way. Because if you were to try to shape directly this way, it's going to be less desirable of a look. Again, it's just a light rounding. Rolls, it's not necessary to pre-shape, but as well, since we're doing it. All right, so we give these, again, like we've done in the past, about 15, 20 minutes. Let the dough relax. Pay attention to what it looks like now, because in a little bit it's going to soften up and start to spread a little bit, and then we'll be able to go into full shape. All right, thanks. Okay, so the dough's had a chance to relax, and what we've got going here is the 3 at 600 grams each. One of them I'm going to just right now put into basically a log. Let that relax, finish shaping these, then I'm going to come back to this, and we're going to make kind of a special little piece out of that, okay? So just for the regular pieces, and this is kind of the standard that you would see on this kind of a bread. So again, just making it a round loaf. All right, and what I'm going to want to do is sesame seeds is the most common, all right? I'm just gonna put a little bit of water on here. You can do a spray bottle and do the same, or a wet towel and kind of roll it around in it. I'm just gonna do it this way. And what you wanna do is kind of get it the full coverage, all right? So you wanna be able to get it all the way down to the bottom and the sides, all right? So a little bit of flour on here just to make sure that it's not gonna get stuck. Okay, so as you see, all right, I'm gonna do the same for the second round loaf. All right, so just a little bit here. All right, so again, the same thing, just making sure that you've got it as such. Okay, these will proof up very nicely. All right, now with the rolls, just rounding them up, just as is, okay? Okay, so in the same respects, you can use sesame seeds, which is my personal favorite to do so. Okay. All right. Or if you don't really want the sesame seeds, you can also just put it in the semolina flour itself, because that's actually pretty common as well. Just a preference and taste. Okay. Now, for our last piece, what we're going to do is make this into an S. Okay. All right, so if this is my seam here, okay, I just want to make sure that I've got the seam down. So I rolled it back down, and all you're going to do is this. Just kind of roll it up like this, okay, and then take the other side, roll it up like such, okay? It's just going to be that. And then you can do the same thing. You can do it with sesame, or the semolina flour itself. That's just, again, a preference. Okay. And it ends up just making kind of a nice, cool looking shape. All right, so these are proof. It's about an hour and a half because we did put that little bit of commercial yeast in there, and then we'll bake them off. All right, thank you. Great, we had a chance to proof fully. This actually took about 2 hours this time around. Usually it's about an hour and a half, but I think my room temperature was a little bit cooler. It's hot outside where we live. AC is on, so it's a little bit cooler that way. So beautiful breads, all right? The S that we made, the rolls. We're going to load the 2 boules in the S now, and again, this you won't be using a transfer peel for this because it's a large round loaf, and we didn't proof it in a proofing basket just because of the seeds. So what we're going to end up doing is this, okay? Just rolling it over and then gently laying it down, okay? Very simple to do. You just got to get used to kind of doing it. All right, now this is, I'm just going to do 1 score all the way across, and then I'm going to show you slightly different on the other one. All right, so we got that here. All right, and then I'm going to do the other 2 loaves together. Okay, and then the semolina, I can actually use this on this one. Okay. Give a little room to grow. Make sure you get enough space between the loaves if they're going to be on the same peel. All right, so this one I don't need to score. Where we rolled it up, it's actually going to kind of open up and break. But this one, what we're going to do is I'm going to reverse the blade a little bit, just kind of give a little kind of an S-looking shape. All right, ends up looking pretty nice when you're all said and done. So let's get this in. I'm going to steam it with the ice that we've been doing. Okay, a little bit of water as well. And then this, what you have to be careful of is when you bake this, it does have butter in it, okay? So, as we've mentioned before on the ingredients episode, butter's gonna brown up much faster. So this, as this comes around, you wanna make sure you bake it full, bake it deep, okay? But also get that tendency where if you bake it too far, too deep, you get that little bit of a burnt taste on the butter itself. So pay attention, probably about a 35-minute bake altogether, all right? So we finished baking. Fantastic bread. The semolina, where you get 50% white flour with the semolina at 50%, the 6% butter, and then when you mix it with the liquid levain, I put a little pinch of commercial yeast in there, so it's not you don't want to get too much of a sour from there, so you get some leavening from the yeast itself, the commercial yeast. And when you blend it all together and then you cover it with sesame seeds and you get that full rich flavor all together, it really combines excellent. It's a good sandwich bread. It's a good roll, okay? We did a little bit with the semolina on the outside as well. Just depends on what you're after and what you're looking for in a mouthfeel. But you're gonna like it very much. Try it at home. You can find all the ingredients at the grocery store. All right, so if you wanna follow this channel and all the other breads that we're gonna make, which is gonna be miche and fagasse and some focaccias coming up, there's gonna be pain au levain, there's gonna be all kinds of things. So if you wanted to subscribe to our channel, which is kingdombread-tampa on YouTube, and then of course at our website there is kingdombread-tampa.com. All right, thank you.